Well, here's our introductory lecture to ecology. We're going to learn some basic information about ecology. So ecology is defined often as the study of relationships between organisms and the environment. Now, this simple definition does not convey the extreme breadth of this discipline. So it's much wider than that. The ecosystem includes all of the organisms living in an area and the physical environment that these organisms interact with. And the biosphere would be the highest level of organization, including the whole planet where life is possible. These are probably a little hard to see, but down here it shows individuals, populations, the interactions, a community, an ecosystem, a landscape, a region, and then the biosphere, the whole works. So the levels below are included within the levels above. So one way to think of ecology. MacArthur was a very important ecologist. Just a little case study here. He studied 5 species of warblers in the spruce forests in North America. Now, the theory predicted that 2 species with identical ecological requirements could not coexist indefinitely. So he worked on warblers and found that they fed in different zones of the same tree, so their ecological niches did not overlap. So here's an example of the warblers that MacArthur used. So one is the Cape May, and notice it feeds here at the top, needles and buds, and then the Blackburnian feeds on the new needles and buds of the upper branches there. The black-throated warbler is kind of in the middle, and then we have the bay-breasted, and you can see its area. So the old needles and bare and lichen-covered middle branches, and then we have the yellow-rumped warbler, the 5th species. Notice feeding toward the bottom, bare and lichen-covered lower trunk and middle branches. Now, this is a classic study in ecology, one of the very important ones that is in the literature. So forests are interesting places to study. Due to the heavy rainforest, many forest soils are nutrient poor. This is particularly true in the rainforest. So the nutrient stores may be in the canopies and may be associated with epiphytes, in other words, plants that grow on plants. And these epiphyte mats contain significant qualities of nutrients, and the tree sends up roots often to the epiphyte mats in order to access the nutrients. Lichens and Bormans studied forest in New Hampshire in an experimental area, and they estimated that 90% of the nutrients in a New Hampshire forest were locked up in the organic matter in the soil, about 95% or so, and about 10% in the soil. And some was lost to streamfold. Now, these guys did a number of classic studies that are very important in the history of ecology in this experimental forest. Sometimes when we are doing ecology and we're looking in the past, we can look at materials that are in the sediments. So here's an example in a pond or a lake. You can find out things about the environment by taking the sediments and looking for the pollen. And notice things have changed. About 12,000 years ago, the dominant species were spruce. About 8,000 years ago, it was beech. And then toward the present, you're getting into chestnuts. But chestnuts kind of disappeared from the forest in the United States because of a disease that came in from probably Europe. The chestnut blight pretty much wiped out all the chestnut trees. Many environmental changes occur over large spatial or temporal scales. Now, an experimenter called Davis monitored plant pollen deposited in those lake sediments in the Appalachian Mountains, and he was able to document those temporal changes in the plant communities. So just some examples of ecological studies there. So ecology is the study of relationships between the organisms and the environment, and there are a wide variety of approaches. These approaches may involve temporal and spatial scales. They may occur in the field, like some of those examples we've seen. They may occur in the lab. They may be purely observational, or we may have manipulative studies, which are actual experiments with controls and all of that occur in ecology. So wide variety of approaches to ecology. So just a picture of a landscape here, and you can see this has been greatly modified by human use. There is a brief introduction to ecology, very brief. And make sure you do your reading and your text in order to fill out the areas you need to know about.